All right. Well, for the benefit of everybody, I have the revamped website out there. And a few updates here. I'll start with the stuff you've been talking about regarding the evaporative demand drought index. Again, it's a drought index, something we are just trying to explore and outreach with. And again, our sense here is that it's a very effective tool in really capturing the fast-evolving drought conditions. Anyway, so one of the things we have done with the outreach of that product is put it on the Western Water Assessment Dashboard. So if you go through the revamp resource, interactive resource, there's a dashboard link all the way down. You click on that. It takes you through several different products that are being updated at different time steps. And you have the snowpack, precip, et cetera. And under drought monitoring, we have the evaporative demand drought index. And right now we have 6 different plots showing the Eddy product. If you click on any of these, it will zoom out and you can just look at it. So this product is updated every day. So there's a 5-day lag. That's why you see March 17th here. But it's being updated every day. And if you want to know more about Eddy, you can click on the symbol there. And then we also have a 2-page Eddy description that we released late last year, and so you can know more about Eddy. So what I wanted to actually point out here is that it might be good. So we are in the process of putting the Eddy product on the Western Water, Rocky Mountains, and High Plains Climate Dashboard. It's not yet there, but it would be a bigger product, bigger in the sense that it will cover a bigger region, more relevant to the North Central regions. And hopefully we'll try to get it up there by next week. And so it might be good. It might be a good idea to have the Rocky Mountain dashboard as well on the resource. And maybe we can just have the Rocky Mountain High Plains dashboard on the resource, or both of them. Either works. So that's about the outreaching with Eddy. Any questions there?
Just one. This is Dennis MTLs. This is really great. I really like the spatial and temporal resolution that's incorporated in there.
Actually, I can show you a plot here. That's how it would look like.
Okay, that's okay.
So this would be on the Rocky Mountains and the Great Plains dashboard. We also have a product which covers the whole U.S. CONUS-wide data set. So,
I guess my question, though, is more related to the outreach component and stakeholder and, I guess, the decision-maker engagement activity. And I wonder if it would be meaningful for us as a climate science center to have a small user working group meeting to actually kind of get into the details of how people would use this and how we might modify it for their use.
Right. No, I think that's a great comment there. Something we have been kind of working on our side here. Mike Hobbins, who is kind of leading the effort here, and Candida is very much helping him with developing these products, including doing all kind of codings. And then we're working with Jeff Lucas at Western Water Assessment, and who is helping us put these things out there, and maybe also write some relevant text related to what these plots mean. I think going forward, we just have to see where the impact is, how much we can make it usable, and in that, is it relevant to talk about Eddy primarily in the warm season when there is more useful information to glean through? Does it mean looking at the plot that I'm showing right now is showing, an extreme dry condition in much of the north central region, what does it mean? Should we even be concerned about this kind of signal at this point? So I totally agree with your comment that we should look into expanding the user group that we have at this point with respect to EDDI. But again, coming back to my personal feeling is that it's I think it's a strong tool, and we just need to provide more context for it to be better used.
So I guess what I'm thinking of then is maybe just sending out a small invitation to who would want to be part of a steering committee to organize a 2-3 day workshop on this topic that we can hold here in Fort Collins, or someplace where we can get more of a user community input on this product.
Right. I think that's a great suggestion. We'll work on it.
Hey, this is Doug Cluck from NOAA. Just a quick couple things. This product is, I think, being used operationally from a national scale for the drought monitor. Those guys who watched that, they find that this tool actually lends quite a bit, especially in the growing season. Whether that we're in that or not is sort of debatable. But anyway, especially in the growing season, in terms of getting heads up to what we consider or what they consider something like a flash drought,
right.
Which is not easy to monitor, I guess is the best way to say that. So it's a useful tool. It's a good another weapon, I guess you could say, in the monitoring of drought for sure. The other thing I'll say is that last week in Casper, Wyoming, a number of us were with the Ag Climate Hub folks, Justin Derner and company, and we had a good conversation on, for example, working with Jeff Lucas and the High Plains Regional Climate Centers, among others, to maybe put together something that would detail exactly what's going on in the state of Wyoming. And we were in Wyoming, and there are a number of people who are there, like Chad McNutt, among others, who are sort of interested in working across, I guess, agencies, if you will, to put out some sort of, again, it kind of goes back to the philosophy that we use, early warning information in terms of dry conditions and things people should be watching out for, maybe especially in the agricultural community, or range and pasture, and maybe even forest for that matter. That's all.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Doug. That was, you really gave a great summary. We were aware of that meeting in Wyoming. Jeff Lucas filled us in. He also connected us to Matt Reeves at the Rocky Mountain Research Station, who is interested in getting EDDI data to do some impact-related stuff in it. So, but this is the product I'm showing here. This is what the USDM is given. So we have a FTP website where they can look at the EDDI products, the different EDDI products. So actually, they can glean through all the different products and get a sense of what EDDI is doing. So we send it to the USDM folks. This also goes to the Upper Colorado Basin people in Fort Collins, and also used by Rocky Mountain Research Station for fire weather. So it's being used by a few different user groups in an operational sense. Is there any other question?
Yeah, MJ, this is Jeff, and maybe it's a question to Doug. Do you know if there's interest, or is the NOAA considering this for the quarterly climate impacts and outlooks report?
I definitely think it would be used as the season progresses in both the monthly and the monthly, which is pretty broad, and then the Missouri Basin version, if it was compelling.
right? So I don't know if there's a way to plug in Natalie Umfit and her newsletter to this. I'm sure she's aware of it, but maybe we should take that, and that would be maybe if this, you know, if and when the workshop happens, to make sure someone from High Plains Regional Climate Center is there. I'd also ask that, you know, the 8 management-focused projects. I know that the Wind River Project is onto this for their quarterly report, and, you know, prior to or complementing a possible workshop, we have got 8 projects. I don't know if anything in the Dakotas, if Amy's projects or anyone else in the line, you know, could follow up, take it offline with MTS if there's a chance of utilizing this into any of those 8 management-focused projects.
This is Trevor, Shannon McNeely's research assistant, and I just wanted to say that there was quite a bit of interest for tools like this expressed at the field offices where we're doing our case studies, and I think the hydrologists and range cons from the various field offices within the states might be a good sort of user population to contact and reach out to. That was one of the things that came up, is that they know they need new tools for dealing with, you know, drought. And I've actually sent links to this to some of my contacts there, and they seem interested in it. So that might be something to follow up on.
And what I would say is, the only other thing I'd say is this is, you know, part of the equation in monitoring drought wherever you happen to be. So this would be part of a very long sort of number of things that you would use to indicate or trigger, if you will, if you have a drought plan, trigger certain aspects of a drought plan.
Yes, and again, we just wanted to make it more and more visible so that it can be looked besides other drought information that's there. And so it's an objective product. It's really talking about the anomalies and evaporative demand at that moment in time, and you can integrate it over different time steps, or from weeks to months to seasons to year. So again, so on that note, I also wanted to say that for groups that are doing research and looking for data sets and long-term data sets, we have EDDI data that I've been giving to different researchers as of now, but only restricted to the 3-state region of Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming for now, at the Huck 4 scale from starting 1979. So looking forward, we want to create a data set that's CONUS-wide and, again, going from 1979 all the way to present. So that's our intention, and we hope to have that data set developed fairly soon. But I just wanted to put it out there. If people are interested in using that data, they can connect with us.
Yes, it's Shannon here at the center. I'm curious where the conversation is at this point about the issue that was brought up in the context of the Wind River project and whether or not we should start making these outputs from Mike Hobbins available to them. He's been sending the team leads for the Wind River project like weekly or biweekly updates of the EDDI specifically for Wind River, and we've kept it internal so far aside from the quarterly climate summaries because there's a certain amount of interpretation that has to go into it. You can slice the EDDI in different time scales, and Mike's concern has been that it depends on the use and what time scale you look at, and there has to be some level of interpretation, of expert interpretation of that. So, and I was on a call last night. There was a workshop at Wind River Reservation last night for the agricultural resource management plan that they're developing, and the website is now live, and they asked me what we wanted to put on that, and I was thinking the EDDI would be a perfect thing to put on that, but all of these caveats notwithstanding. So I'm curious where your thinking is at this point about that, and when we can start to maybe serve those up.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks. for the question. So that's true, and one of the things, if you talk to Mike, he'll tell you that, EDDI could be used across wide user group, and all kind of EDDI timescales matter to different groups. So that could be, in a way, sometimes not help it, kind of making a deliberate decision on how to go about using EDDI products. One of the things we have been thinking more and more is that to be more selective about what products we should kind of emphasize. That was one reason to select certain EDDI products for the dashboard. Secondly, when should we really start to worry about the EDDI plots? I mean, is it really starting of the warm season, late spring, that we need to have a more serious look at EDDI and see if there is a flash drought-like condition emerging or not. I think we just need to have more and more discussion, keep looking at these maps. So again, here is the map of the Wind River EDDI product, and right now Mike is not sending these emails that he used to do every week, but everything is being updated here. Again, it's the weekly products are updated every day, and the monthly products are updated every month. So this is the 4-week EDDI product, and again showing generally kind of a dry signal over much of the Wind River region, but then we start to worry about it at this point. And I think we really need more conversation on what is this EDDI thing telling us at this point. I don't know if it's helpful. But I know that Candida will cover a little bit of the stuff she's doing on Wind River, and where we might include EDDI work with some of the long-term EDDI data.
Why don't we go to Candida but ask either MTS or Candida if you could try to track these potential or current users. As I think there's a lot to brag about, not only because it's a scientifically exciting product, but that through the Climate Science Centers and Western Water and our connections with NOAA and Doug, that we have users that we're tapping into. So I just ask you to kind of keep that running list of who we're serving, because that's going to be kind of at the end of the day what we really can brag about.
And we already have for Wind River on the NICWIS site and everything. So
okay, yeah. So like it's being done, but I'd like to maybe ask Candida or MTS to keep that master list of everybody who's using EDDI in our region, because I think it's a lot. There's stuff here to brag about.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. And just as a reminder, I don't know if you mentioned this, MTS, we did do a little test case with Wind River last year with the irrigation season, and the managers there did respond very positively to this. And it was, so we were looking retrospectively, we were doing this in the fall, looking at the past irrigation season, and sure enough, it showed the signal much quicker than the drought monitor did. I think there's a lot of potential there, and they had a lot of great questions about what went into this. So we already kind of started that process there, at least, with really good results so far.
Yeah. Talking about Wind River, maybe Candida can briefly mention the stuff she has been doing on that.
Hi, this is Candida. We recently sent out an outline for a paper we're putting together here with Shannon and others to understand what happened in the water year 2015. We had that water shortage later in the summer, and we want to understand what happened in the previous winter, in the previous rainy season, that could have led to that, not just the climate context, but also management decisions that were made. And in that context, we'll be looking also at what EDDI had shown throughout the season, relating that to other hydrologic variables. So in the research context, that will help us understand what are the timescales of EDDI that are usable, in a sense, for that specific region and for their purposes. And so I think that will start shedding light on the question of, how can this be useful on a monitoring basis. So we have that outline sent out to the climate team within the Wind River project. I'm slowly getting some feedback from people and on suggestions of drought data sources and also people willing to join the team and work on that paper. We're starting we've already started collecting the data on our end on the climate analysis, and the processing them is going to take a little while, but we hope to get that done this summer.
Intern, we have an intern.
Yeah, we will have an undergrad intern joining, working here with Imtiaz and myself during the summer, so we'll put that person on task as well.
Do you want to talk about your papers?
On the more broader PET research that I've been doing, I had been looking at different formulations of potential evapotranspiration and how can that affect our assessment of drought risk under climate change. We are wrapping up a first stage of that research. We'll be sending out an abstract to the series Rendezvous. That's an event here at CU Boulder campus. And that should start building up a paper that we hope to submit early this summer. And for the next steps, I'll start looking into the sensitivity of potential evapotranspiration to its climate drivers, such as temperature, radiation, relative humidity, and wind, and a more detailed analysis with using the climate projection data, so the output from CMIP-5 models, and hopefully including their downscaled versions, the MACA data set, which we have mentioned in previous calls, that we're going to start looking at as well. So I think that's my update. Imtiaz, if you want to add something.
So I just wanted to add on that paper that Candida mentioned. It's something we're calling it, an evaluation of methodologies for, a robustness in estimation of potential evapotranspiration, for assessment of drought risk under climate change. And so here we did look at this issue in various different ways, and we actually formed what we call a PET discussion group here at PSD NOAA that's been meeting every week for a month and a half now, just kind of reconciling the various differences we are getting using different methodologies, but really kind of converging to what would be more of a robust method. One of the things that Candida has done in her research is make the time scale much finer. So instead of working at monthly time scale, we've been really working at the daily data. And of course now we've been getting comments, can we move to some sub-daily time scales as well? But we really have kind of, we believe that made a lot of progress in converging towards something that's more robust as a methodology, and we think the importance of writing this paper with the context to ecological application. So we've been thinking about different journal options as well, and if somebody has any suggestions for us, we're welcome to hear that, but really talking about how to better estimate potential evapotranspiration, and in terms of, and again, a method that captures the variability component, but also a correct trend component going into the future. So that's kind of the paper, and hopefully we'll have that submitted before Candida takes her leave.
A question is whether this is connected to Gabriel's ET work on that weekly call and or the stuff at University of Montana. I know the topo weather was expanding from just the temperature, the gridded temperature, to the ET and precip products, so I kind of want to make sure that maybe there's a connection there.
Yes, we would like to keep that connection there. Especially for Wind River, we've been using Gabriel's data. We want to use that for this paper. As it develops, we'll just explore what other things needs to help it on its way. But we've been looking at downscale product. One of the products that Candida had looked at was the MACA data at 4 kilometers. These are the multivariate adaptive constructed analogs. So it's a daily data set. These are GCM downscale daily data set. And so at 4 kilometers, so high resolution. And so we are exploring how close the estimation of PAT from raw GCM versus a downscale product looks like. I was not quite aware of, well, I was aware of the stuff that the Topo Weather folks have put there, and we just need to explore how that was developed. We haven't yet looked at that data. But Jeff, is there a PET data available in the historic period at 800 meters from?
I do not know what they've got with respect to that. Gabriel, maybe you can. I know that they were going to look. They were looking. Well, I know they were looking at maybe ET, but I don't know if they're looking.
I just want to comment on what Jeff said about using the actual ET and also the potential ET from Eddy. In Lower Colorado, what we found out is that in a drier year, irrigated areas use actually more water because there is atmospheric demand. So where the potential ET would show much drier conditions, so which would reflect correctly on rainfed systems. But in irrigated systems, because of higher atmospheric demand, there will be more water use. So the actual ET will use more water use, whereas the rainfed system would show lower water use. So we have to look at these two products really together to understand better the water use dynamics. So in a Wind River where management may be slightly poorer and the water may not be available, it may reflect the same as the Eddy. But in well-watered systems, actually, the actual ET may show more water use. It will show more wetness.
I think it depends where on Wind River.
Yeah.
There's different systems that
so that would be really
behave very differently.
Right. So I think looking at the two products is very important. So we have a better understanding.
Yeah.
The management versus the climate.
Right.
Yes, that's correct, Gabriel. And we have been, at our discussions here, we have been kind of exploring the divergence trend in PET and ET and, how they behave in concurrence and in divergence at different times and what affects that. So, thanks.
Good. Okay. Anything else from the climate team? I think we're going to take up all of Beth's time that she allotted here with these reports, but they're good to hear, and that's really exciting. And I do think that MACA is an interesting data set to track. I'm glad to hear you're looking into that. And then the ET stuff, maybe we'll kind of take it offline with Gabriel and with University of Montana. But I don't know if Arjun or if Andy's on the line. Yeah, they're both here. Anything to update?
Yeah, Andy here. Jeff, maybe I could briefly show a few graphics on the land use change analysis we're doing, and then perhaps Arjun could briefly summarize some of the work we're doing on species distribution modeling of trees.
That's great. Jill's handing the ball over to you. You should be able to share your screen. And looks like we can see it. Thanks.
Okay, great. So Arjun's been leading this analysis, and I thought maybe we'd just take a brief look at these results that we have so far. So basically, if we look at this upper left-hand map, we're basically looking at these wildland-centered ecosystems distributed across the domain, but broken into 3 ecoregions, if you will. And so the Central Plains ecoregion that has good soils and moist summers and high agriculture, and then of course the Western Mountains that are rapidly growing due to natural amenities and other types of developments. And then the Western Plains that are more or less the high plains that are quite interesting in terms of being the place during the 1950 to 2000 period that was actually undergoing a depopulation of people and a loss of local communities. The graphic below just shows the outlines for these 9 different wildland ecosystems that we've identified. Again, these are places that are centered on federal lands and tribal lands and include surrounding private lands that meet certain ecological criteria. And fundamentally, our analysis asks about rates of land use change since 2001 to 2010, and then the extent to which natural habitat types have been fragmented since Euro-American settlement in each of these. What we expected to find was that this high plains area perhaps would be, if anything, undergoing an expansion of natural cover types and a reduction in land use intensification due to that depopulation, and that maybe the other two ecoregions would be getting land use intensification. What we found was that none of these wildland ecosystems in all three ecoregions basically are undergoing substantial land use intensification. So these are just net changes over this 10-year period. The green is forest, and you can see that forest areas declined during this 10-year period in all of them. The blue is developed. This is the NLCD classification, and that in most places has been the most rapidly growing type. You'll notice as well that in the Western Plains, agriculture has been increasing. The trajectories of change in these NLCD classes are represented here. This is now across all 9 greater ecosystems. Basically, it's showing a conversion from forest to shrubland and especially to developed. And then overall across the system, a loss of cultivated, partially to shrubland, but again to developed. And then these data represent land use classes based on housing density. This comes from Dave Theobald's work. And it's showing something important relative to conservation, a substantial reduction in private undeveloped lands. These are places of very low housing density. So these are the private wildland places, if you will. And an increase in places of intermediate housing density, so rural and exurban in the red and the greens here. And again, that's particularly pronounced in the Western Mountains, but it's also occurring in those high plains areas. And in terms of over here is basically the fragmentation of these pre-settlement habitat types. And of course, the greatest loss of natural habitats is in that agriculturally dominated Lake Traverse area in the Central Plains. But again, you can see substantial losses, especially in grassland and riparian habitats across all of these. So in summary, we think this is quite important from a conservation perspective in that these wildlands, especially in the high plains, are really important in being some of the only wildland areas in that region. They're already very isolated from each other, separated by various types of land use. And they're a place where climate velocity is large because of the flat topography. So as climate changes, species would have to move long distances in order to stay in the same climate. And when you merge that climate issue with this land use change and fragmentation issue, it illustrates to some extent how under siege these wildlands are with regard to both climate and land use change. And I guess we hope that this type of information can be helpful to the land managers in these areas to identify places that are perhaps most important for conservation, as well as opportunities for restoration. So that's an overview of this paper. We hope to be submitting it here in the next couple weeks publication. And Arjun, I suspect we should be fairly brief. Would you want to mention the species distribution modeling progress?
Okay, sure. Arjun here, and thank you very much, Dr. Hanson. Yeah, we have made some, so are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. We have made some progress on species distribution modeling within North Central Science Climate Center domain. Especially, we first figure out 12 forest types within a domain, and we selected 14 dominant tree species on the basis of distribution record in forest inventory analysis, data analysis, and then and we also have now the presence absence data for those 14 dominant tree species. And to run the model, we need some bioclimatic variables and soil variables. So far, I have 6 soil variables, including percent sand, clay, silt, available soil water holding capacity, percent rock, and topographic wetness index. Those are especially projected, and they are ready to run the model. And I'm currently finalizing some bioclimatic variables. Those are the important, the temperature from the warmest month, coldest month, some soil, solar radiation, and other bioclimatic variables. And for the test, I run taking the small subset of our area, I successfully able to run the species distribution modeling for whitebark pine using SHAM's software. And it is a really great software that you have you have good visualization, selecting the appropriate variables and producing some graphics, like some graphics and some projection. That is very handy, and also something that is not in SHAM. I'm using our software to analyze this species distribution modeling. This is the progress up to this, and I would like to add one more progress in February, that I had an opportunity to represent Himalayan region at the Wildland workshop sponsored by NASA and Dr. Handy and other 3 scientists were the coordinator, and that was held in Yellowstone area. And I represented whole Himalayan region, presented the story of sustainable conservation of protected areas managed by, only managed by public. I also discussed about the gaps in the protected area conservation system of the Himalaya region, and I presented and how the NASA can help to improve the conservation work through remote sensing products. And one of my friends or colleagues, he also came from Nepal, and we jointly presented the case study from the South Asia. That is from me.
Okay, thanks, Arjun.
One question I know we got to move on to get the impacts team, but one question for you, Andy, is that shrubland that looked to be increasing, do you think there's a climate signal on that, or the gas and oil developments turn into shrubland, or, it seemed to be strangely increasing. I could see where developed land's increasing. But
yeah, our June's assessment is that it's particularly in the forested west that the increase in shrublands is a result of beetle kill of forest. So that makes good sense, and there's a citation or two to support that. Exactly what's happening for the change in shrubland in the High Plains region is less clear to me. I wonder what you think might be happening there.
I can just give you a dumb look. I don't know. It's a good question. I was surprised to see that, but it sort of maybe is worth something exploring, or maybe some of the SIMSTAD project that's actually looking kind of in, well, I don't know.
I guess that's consistent with some of the projections that we've seen before with vegetation change in the High Plains, is that woody encroachment, shrub encroachment tends to increase.
Yeah, I know.
The hydrology, the rainfall pattern is shifted, so you get these more deep-rooted systems, so you don't get the shallow-rooted grasslands.
Yeah.
So it's consistent with that.
And I know Amy's project was looking at like this woody encroachment on Wind Cave.
Well, good. Well, we'll be able to, or June, maybe we can follow up on this and look on Google Earth at these places that NLCD is showing undergoing this conversion to shrubland, and see if we
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, let's, well, we got a few more minutes, 15 minutes left or so, the adaptation group. Yeah, I think a report.
Yeah, lots going on with the adaptation team. I would say in general, we continue to push deeper into integration across the disciplinary areas and with manager input through the interviews. A couple products that are coming out or we're working on. One is the that paper to Weather, Climate, and Society is in final production, so it should be coming out any day on the Colorado and Southwest South Dakota case studies. And
you given Reston a heads up on that?
I haven't given them the final because I don't want to give it to them until I can point them to where it is.
They sort of know it might be coming.
I think so, yeah.
And maybe as it gets closer, it doesn't hurt to give them more updates.
I mean, it's going to be, it could be in my inbox any second,
Great.
hopefully. So it'll be soon. And we're still working with Brian on looking deeper into the Southwest South Dakota case and sort of the integration of interviews and the social science on social ecological context and how that can inform simulations and scenarios and vice versa. So that's kind of an exciting endeavor to be exploring that opportunity and thinking about what the implications are for the future for the center. The Wind River project is so multidimensional, I can't get into all of it, but I just want to add the paper that Candida mentioned. That isn't just the climate team, that's also an integrated effort with the social science team and using the interviews again to really understand from the manager's perspective on the ground how we should be looking at that data and what happened in terms of the management context. Tyler and I are moving into summarizing the findings from the interviews with the managers at Wind River. We've done kind of an initial summary and presentation to the other teams, and now we're going to be writing that up and eventually turning that into a paper. So moving on, I don't see anybody from the Southwest Colorado team aside from Imtiaz on the webinar, unless I'm missing anyone.
She couldn't make it, and I was looking through it carefully. I don't see
so they've got their final workshops coming up in April that I plan to go to. So there's two actually each, two in Durango and two in Gunnison. So I'm going to be representing the center and looking for opportunities to share lessons learned from those projects to inform our other management-oriented adaptation projects. And also in particular to inform the BLM social vulnerability assessment that we're doing, that Gunnison's one of our case studies. So our team is going to be, Trevor's going with me, and our team's going to be at that workshop as well.
That's early April, are you saying?
Yeah, the Durango workshops are the first week of April, and the Gunnison are the week after that. So that'll be fun to see how that's all wrapping up. They're basically going to be presenting their final climate adaptation strategies at those. The 3 center drought working groups, so that's with us, the RESA, Western Water Assessment, and the Climate Hub, we are continuing to work together with that working group, and we're developing a paper looking at the intersections between climate change adaptation planning and drought planning. So that's an ongoing effort. So in terms of the tribal activities, just a couple of things to report. There is some signs of life at Ute Mountain Ute, and I'm going to go out and visit them while I'm down there in Durango for that workshop. So
that's good news.
Good news, yeah.
What kind of life?
So I think we're going to hopefully get that moving forward. So that's to proposal that we got funded through the BIA to do a tribal climate vulnerability assessment for the Ute Mountain Ute tribe. This Thursday, there's a meeting in Denver that Jeff and I got invited to that I think, Jeff, you're not going to, but I'm going to be representing the center. It's ITEP's Climate Change Advisory Group meeting. So ITEP, for those of you that don't know, is the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals out of Northern Arizona University. Susan Rose heads up that effort. So they invited us to participate in that for their continuing development and refinement of their climate adaptation training with tribes and other activities. The BLM Social Climate Vulnerability Assessment is chugging right along. Again, way too much to report on that, but we've been continuing to work closely with the BLM state office, the managers there, the field office managers, and the users and permittees of the landscapes. Trevor and John, our other grad student working with Corey Knapp, have been busy doing interviews with the permittees most recently and starting to do the analysis on that. And there's some really exciting possibilities emerging out of that project. And again, moving into sort of integration, we're looking at a synthesis effort with the Ecosystems Vulnerability Assessment team that Renee Rondeau and CNHP conducted their Ecosystems Vulnerability Assessment. So how do we start to sort of post hoc look at doing synthesis and working with managers to help them with their adaptation strategies. That's pretty much it. Just lastly, I just confirmed today that NICWISC has asked me to do a webinar for their national webinar series. We confirmed July 21st. That's going to be on the Wind River co-production stuff. So that's July 21st at 1 p.m. Mountain.
Anything to report on the National Adaptation Forum?
Oh, yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, so I'm actually on the advisory committee for the National Adaptation Forum now. Robin O'Malley was asked to be on it, and he had to step down from that because he's on detail at USGS. So he asked me to be on the committee for him, and so that is in the works. We just had our second, I guess, advisory committee meeting. So I'll continue to give updates as that evolves. So National Adaptation Forum is going to be in May of 2017. I forget the exact dates, but
you know where?
Yes.
Can you share it with us?
I'm trying to remember. St. Paul. St. Paul.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I know it's the Twin Cities.
Okay.
I can't remember which
okay.
one. St. Paul. Yeah, so just, well, like I said, since I'm on the committee, I'll be in the know, and we'll continue to update everyone. And certainly we'll want to think of ways that we can represent all of the great activities that we're doing through the North Central and put together some sessions for that. So we have plenty of lead time to think about that.
That's great. I'm glad you're tracking it because it's sort of our region. Kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a critical aspect of this is that we're really engaged with social ecological thinking and actually promoting that across a suite of things, not only including adaptation, but looking at vulnerabilities. And so I think as we look at the various other funded projects and our foundational areas, really trying to get together more of a synthetic framework or thinking about the implementation of what social ecological concepts could be applied to our studies. We need to really, I think, take advantage of our sort of theoretical framework and how we apply that. It really does help in our planning process. If I have a moment, just to share also sort of more center-wide planning, Jill Lackett and I will be starting a conversation and start engaging the funded projects as well as the foundational areas of a fall sort of meeting of PIs and University Consortium and USGS lead researchers to actually come up with sort of what we've done and where do we go sort of meeting some week in the fall. This is preparation for the renewal review, which will take place in January 2017, and the development of the renewal proposal that will go in later in probably April of 2017. So stay tuned to that. We'll try to find the appropriate dates and provide you a sort of an outline of our plans and objectives for that workshop in the fall.
Just a comment on that is that there should be, as much as possible, open invitation and open access documentation for that discussion, possibly, if for any of the USGS component to it, to inform a recompete that, for fairness and for full disclosure, that it should be, if it's a closed meeting, then come and participate with whatever kind of USGS is thinking, or DOI in general.
So I think it's going to be framed more as a sort of a synthesis of what we've done, and there may be some discussions of where do we go, where we maybe disinvite the USGS participants, but more sort of there's so much that's going on, but really trying to package this material in thematic areas that really kind of highlight what we've done and identify gaps in the sense of how do we better serve the management community given what we have in place.
Yeah, and review and sort of where we are in the science and activities have been done is certainly kind of not the issue. It's just kind of planning and going forward. And,
gotcha. Fully interested. Okay.
And there was a planning meeting in the Southwest, and they kind of came up with documentation. They kind of described what they're interested in doing, and it sort of was publicly available then after and widely available for people to attend, so that it can be done. And kind of the caveat on that.
Good.
Okay, well, we got through the three foundational areas. We had good updates in November and December, I think, from the management projects, and we've got the spreadsheet that I would ask the foundational areas just to peruse. It looks, I did a quick scan. It didn't look like there was any requests coming from any of the management projects, but we do have that column for needs from the other foundational science areas that I'd ask people at least once a month to kind of check. I don't see anything in there. Now asking for information from those projects, from the foundational science areas for those projects, good reporting on some papers and stuff that are happening there. I appreciate people updating that. And maybe I'll just open it up to see if there's any comments from the floor.
This is Diane Dubinsky. I was just going to ask Shannon if she could share that information about that climate adaptation meeting as it becomes available with the group.
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Meeting and kind of in Diane's neck of the woods a little bit. So.
Yeah, we're not too far. We can drive up there.
Out to everyone and just let them know that I'm on the advisory committee. Just send it out to our whole MailChimp. And people can, we'll send one out, Diane, to everyone, and then people can sign up to be on their email lists so you get their notifications automatically.
Yeah, maybe a save the date to everybody, and then notice that Shannon's on the committee, and here's your website to keep informed. Because I'm not on that list. Well, I think I am on the national adaptation.
Okay, thanks.
That would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Diane.
Good suggestion. Anything else? Okay, well, maybe we'll call it a call for the month, and I think next month is, Jill, can you remind me? I know I should know this.
Susan, from EPA.
Yeah, what's the date next month?
EPA talks about some climate and some geospatial information that it's putting together.
Yeah, we have to
Okay. Okay, well, until then, we'll send out a notice on that and talk to folks then. Thank you very much.